Hi, everybody. I am Tracy Parnell. I want to invite you guys to come over to Simply Fit Radio. I am a provisionally licensed counselor, and I'm going to give you some tips on mental health and what you can do if you feel like you're a little stuck in life. Come on over and join us.
Welcome to Simply Fit Radio, and I am super duper excited. I got my baby sister on tonight. Yay! Woo! All right, guys, I gotta stop. I need to do a little bit of announcement, and then we can get right into it. So, you know that WYTV7 is a nonprofit organization, so we want to thank them for all of the wonderful things that they're doing in the community, and we want them to be able to continue to do all of these wonderful things in the community. So we want to thank WYTV7 for allowing Simply Fit Radio to be a part of the Christian Broadcasting Network. And we want you all to remember that this is a nonprofit organization. So if you want to continue to see broadcasts from Simply Fit with Simply Fit tips and strategies, please make a generous donation. There's a donation button on the screen somewhere, top or bottom, but please make a generous donation because we want to continue to allow individuals not only to just see my podcast, but the other broadcasters that are in this group. They have wonderful information that will transform your life. So please make a generous donation. And guys, I want to remind you the mission for Simply Fit Radio. It's really simple. It's just to provide simple tips and strategies so that you can have a successful transition in your mind, body, and soul so that you can present your gifts to the world without them being aborted by Satan. And remember, fitness is more than just exercise. So as I mentioned earlier, I am super duper excited. I got my baby sister on here. Her name is Tracy Parnell, and she is a licensed professional counselor whose passion really is to help individuals find their way so that they can have their best versions of their life. And that is such an awesome mission. And I want to remind you all that mental health is nothing to play with. So we want to remove all of the stigmas from mental health. And that's why I asked her to come on here, because she has something really awesome that she can share with you guys. And then hopefully this will break the barriers and you guys will move forward and get the needed assistance that you may possibly need if you don't or cannot do it alone. Okay, so we want to welcome Tracy to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad that you're here. And like I said, mental health is such a it's a heavy topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's a necessary topic because you know what? Sometimes self-medicating does not work because one, you don't know what to tell yourself. You're telling yourself the wrong stuff and you keep going down the rabbit hole and you're making things worse. So can you just do me a favor and tell the audience what caused you to get into this area of counseling, and then maybe give us like 2 or 3 suggestions on why someone would want to come to a licensed counselor such as yourself.
So I am a provisionally licensed counselor, meaning that when you go into this profession, you don't get a bachelor's degree and then off you go into the counseling field. They make you do 3,000 hours of supervised counseling before you're able to get your license. And after you do the 3,000 hours, somebody has to vouch on your behalf for you to be licensed. So I will be fully licensed in May. I'm done with all of my hours. But this profession pretty much chose me. So I started off wanting to be a nurse, and I couldn't deal with sticking babies and crying babies. So eventually God just opened up and showed me that I am a natural listener and a natural healer. So through listening to what he told me, taking the classes, and the classes excited me, and being able to do practicum, which is like practicing with counseling, I identified this is where my passion was. So it took me a really long time to get here. But once I arrived, have you ever heard anybody say, if you find something that you can do for free, that's your passion? I could do counseling for free. I love it. It's a passion for me. So that's what kind of drove me into the profession. And the second part of your question was, why would somebody seek out counseling? So the way my supervisor explained it to me was people are usually in two different categories. They're either stuck or they're sick. So being stuck is like, I just went through a divorce, or I moved towns, or I'm in a predominantly white or predominantly black area and I don't know how to submerge myself appropriately, or, I don't know what to do with my life next. My mom just passed, or those types of situations are life situations that make people stuck. Or I'm a little depressed, or I'm a little sad, or I'm a little anxious. Those are stuck. Some people are more in the category of sick, meaning personality disorders or schizophrenia, psychosis disorders, where not just a little bit of counseling will push you into what you need. It might need to be counseling, meditation, and medication in order to get you to a place where you can live life as the best version of yourself. So if you find yourself in either one of those categories, and this is not a medically driven category, these are just, people categorize them for me, so that's how I put them. So, but if you find yourself in any of those situations, you might need to seek help.
Okay, and you know what, and that's really helpful, and that breaks it down. But we're going to mainly stick with the stuck area because I'm not a professional in that area. You are, but the people that we're communicating with now, the audience, they're not in front of you where you can do a proper assessment. So if we could just stick on the stuck area, because I think right now that's where a lot of people are right now. They're in the stuck area. And I want to read a scripture that you can get from King James or the New Living Translation. I actually like New Living Translation. It's 2 Timothy 1:7. New Living Translation, it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." And then, of course, in the King James Version, it says a sound mind. So those things that Tracy talked about, the stuck area, that's not having a sound mind. And I think this is where someone like Tracy, having this profession and this license, can walk you out of that stuck area. So Tracy, can you let us know, like, well, do you mainly work with children, or do you work with anybody that will call you and set up an appointment if they're, like we said, we're going to talk about being in a stuck area? Do you have a preference?
I had a preference when I first started, but supervision kind of pushes you through the fear so that you can work it all. So I have moved from just wanting to deal with adults to now deal with adults and children. The only area that I'm not so proficient in is couples, because couples therapy is a totally different dynamic than dealing with individual children or individual adults. So I do mostly all.
Okay, so with the counseling, and what's the process that after you do the assessment and you're working with someone, do you work with them until they're totally out of the stuck area, or do you give them homework like affirmations, so they're talking to themselves the right way and not the negative stuff, and like, we're going to use like you just lost a job, because a lot of people will get stuck if they lose employment, and they have all of these preconceived notions about themselves, because now I can't provide for my family. Now I put my family in a position where we can't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And unfortunately, some people have actually committed suicide for something. In my assessment, is not that serious. I like to keep everything nice and simple. So let's work on that, like simple things that if someone was in a situation like that, how would you work them to not being stuck again?
So
like, is it going to be a hand holding thing, or, you come in, like, how's that process work?
So different therapists have different modalities, meaning they use different approaches to therapy with other people. So some people, it would be hand holding. That's more of what's called dialectic behavior therapy. And some people are person centered, where they gear towards you and they allow you to feel your emotions. And some people, like me, are solution focused. So I hear the problem and immediately I want to give you tools in order to fix it. But So with the process, you have to build a relationship with the client. So it's already hard for African Americans to come to counseling as it is. So if I come in and I tell you, hey, I'm ready to fix you, that's going to scare you. So I have to build rapport with the client first, and then I identify what tools, what information they already have, and then eventually I slide some in. I give homework to all of my clients, and I give them expectations of movement, but I don't force them in that movement. So even though it might be something as simplistic as I lost my job, you have to break that down. So I lost my job. My job was important. My job was my only identity. So now that I lost my job, I want to die. Okay, so why does the attachment to your job mean life? Where did that come from? Where did you see that? And how deep was that for you? So sometimes it's not as pretty as the picture up top. You got to go below that iceberg and pick a little bit, because if you want the change to occur and stick, you need to know where it comes from, and then you need to be able to change it. But a lot of times people are like, don't go back to my childhood. Don't tell me anything about my mom or my dad. Well, I don't want to hear that. And sometimes you can go through therapy without having to touch on that. But if you find that it's a cyclical process with some of the things that you're doing, we might have to go back to how to form those thoughts. Where did that come from? Did you watch somebody, work on the line to get beat, and then they didn't get a chance to get money for their family, and then people died? Is that why you hold so true to those things? Or did your mom always tell you wasn't crap, so now you're attaching, I'm only meaning something because my mom told me without this, I don't mean anything? So sometimes you have to break it down. Sometimes you can be surface, but I tell my clients when they sit down, I go at your pace. You don't go at mine, I go at yours, because the goal is for you to be healed, not for me, but for you.
That's extremely deep, because I never took it from that standpoint, which I do, but when I presented the question, it didn't even dawn on me that someone would actually take a job and like identify themselves as that job versus this is just the profession that I am in, not I am a husband or I'm a wife or I'm a sister, I'm a brother. That's some serious stuff, and right now I think providing people with some simple tools can break those, where they're not attaching themselves to like the work or attaching themselves to anything other than what God has called them to be. Like, do you provide those tools where it really just helps them to identify just themselves as a whole without something else being attached to them? So if they lose this job, it's like, okay, I'm confident enough, I can go get something else. Or yes, my mom died. That's not something I can't change that, but I can work through that. What are the tools that you would help somebody to walk through? And like, are these tools online, or are these tools where it's in a group session? Like, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so let's just keep going with the job. I lost my job, and that's connected to my identity. The first thing you have to do is identify that connection is really deep. So if you don't think that connection is that deep, the level of therapy is not going to be as successful as you hope. It's going to be a band-aid over why you lost that job. So we'll talk about the people in the office, or what your position was, and what your criteria is, and how you can meet something or do something different if you want to keep it surface. Because again, I don't push you, because the goal is for your healing, not mine. But if you want to take it deep and you then identify, wow, I never knew I connected my job with my worth, then we begin to break down where you got that message from. And once we identify that, we have to begin to separate little things. And that's when the tools come in, like the happiness jar. So I'll have you create a jar full of positive things that you've accomplished, and you place it in the jar. So whenever your mind begins to go somewhere negative, you have this jar full of stuff, and you're not the only one that can put stuff in it. Your wife can put stuff in it. Your kids can put stuff in it. So you see that your meaning is not just attached to that one job. You also have the cycle of grief. So now you've identified that I've attached myself and my whole identity with this job. So now as I bring it away and say this is not who it is, you have to go through some level of grief. Like, dang, this is not me. I'm worth more. I am more. But all of my life I've attached it to this. So you got to start breaking that down. Grieve it. Sometimes it means that you're going to go through anger, resentment, happiness, ups and downs, but I travel that road with you and I tell you, or I help you to see which emotion you're expressing and where it comes from so we can heal it and move on from it. Then you do a gratitude journal. There's a multitude of things that work for different people. I have my own stash, if you will, of tools that I use for certain people because everything doesn't work for everybody. But you can always Google. Google is amazing. Just don't diagnose yourself. Get the tools from Google, but don't diagnose yourself from Google because you'll be somewhere in a white padded room. Don't do that.
I love that. I love the fact that you mentioned the gratitude jar because that can transcend between an adult and children. And I notice with the children, mainly, well, I don't want to say that, but I was going to say age-wise. However, children can have challenges regardless of what their age is. With mine, they're in elementary, and I noticed the ones that are transitioning, like starting to leave out of being like the babies, and now they're going into being preteens. Them hormones are starting to kick in and change, and all of the like whacked out stuff they say when stuff don't work out for them. When you're in the school setting, does the gratitude jar work very well? Because I know they have counselors there and libraries and, maybe a little bit more things that the children can gravitate to while you're working with them. How does that work when you're in a school setting?
So I also go into the school setting and I deal with some kids whose parents give me permission to see them. And what we do is I do them also because it's hands-on and you can do more colorful things with them and they're open to it. So their biggest thing is peer pressure. They deal with wanting to assimilate. They want to be like the rest of the kids. They want to act like the rest of the kids. But my goal is to get their critical thinking skills up so that they can make educated choices and decisions on who to hang with, how to act, and how to react. So a lot of things that I do, I have mindfulness, I do posters, we do yoga, and we do a lot of talk therapy where I ask them to tell me why or create goals on certain things. So tell me why Susie is your friend. Oh, well, Susie sat with me at lunch, or, she says hi to me. And then I have a little demonstration in my office where I have 3 jars, and in the jars, there are marbles. And one has a lot, one has a little bit, one has none. And the goal is to show them how you determine friendship levels. People add marbles to your jar when they do things that you find to be worthy. So let's put these kids in jars, and how many marbles would these kids have? Oh, none. So maybe that shouldn't be your friend. But this one has a lot of marbles, and what do these marbles represent? And then they can tell you as they put the marbles in, and now they critically can see, you don't put marbles in my jar, then I shouldn't trust you as much as I do. You do put marbles in my jar. Maybe I should lean a little bit more towards you. And that's not to say, oh, stay away from these kids that don't put marbles in your jar, but that's to say I now have a requirement for you to move into friend instead of associate. So, in addition to that, a lot of kids deal with anger. They deal with anger a lot in school. I didn't get the grade I wanted, or Susie pulled my hair, or she doesn't like me. So I do a lot of breathing, mindful moments, and I have them identify the emotion and breathe in positivity and breathe out, the anger or aggression. And through, I guess, affirmations, if you will, I help to change their mind as they're doing the breathing exercises. So a lot of times what I see in the schools that I work in is mostly anger and being a follower instead of being a leader. So that's how, I use a lot of play therapy and a lot of mindfulness tools for them.
Do you have any of this information online where, like, I know you, I went and you're on, tell me the name of the site that you're on again, because I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Psychology Today.
Okay, so on Psychology Today, on your site, do you have it where the little assessments that you just went through, simulated on there, or will you be creating something, a simulated process like that, where if someone cannot come to you for whatever reason, they don't have insurance or whatever the money, they can at least get started from that point, or when you're in the school, you don't have to worry about insurance?
In the school setting, I work with the counselor, so there are a couple of people that come in. So it's not just, so if they can't see me, then they have another hospital health service person there, and they have a counselor there. So everybody in the school should be able to have an outlet for counseling. But say you're an adult and you're searching the web and you want to see if you might meet the criteria for needing counseling. I don't have my website set up just yet. I'm working on that. However, there are assessments online that you can take for anger and aggression and the personality disorders, and there are a lot of them. And what I'll begin to do is I'll begin to link them in my website so that people can easily get to them and they can, you know, take some of those quizzes. I will say you don't want to take every quiz online and try to gain insight, because that's kind of like Googling for symptoms and then diagnosing yourself. I would hate for people to take those assessments and then get so scared or so shameful or depressed that they don't seek out help. So that's part of the reason why you take those assessments with a clinician. They help you go through the, you know, the meaning of them, what this is, and how we can move forward. We can create a plan for therapy on moving forward. So yeah, some basic assessments you can take online, and I can link that. But some assessments I would say you should take in office or with a clinician.
Tracy, this has been an outstanding time with you, because I know a lot of people are that really are in need of this. We may need to have you come back on and do part 2, because we are down to our last 10 minutes. And so we want to give you an opportunity to tell the folks how they can reach you. And I know with you being in Missouri, that's why I was asking for a lot of online stuff. So with you being in Missouri and not, well, let me ask you this. Are you allowed to see other people outside of Missouri? And if not, just so we can wrap up, just tell them where you are right now, how they can reach you.
Okay, so if you go to Psychology Today and you plug in my name as it's shown on the panel, you can find me. But no, we can't cross state lines in order to give therapy, and that is for the safety of people in their different states. So each state has a different test that you have to take and pass in order to be able to give therapy or even operate with a medical license from state line to state line. So that's safety for people. But Psychology Today, if you go to psychologytoday.com, you can put a zip code in, and they will give you therapists in your zip code, no matter where you are, so that you can find a professional. The credentials will be on Psychology Today. It'll tell you who they're licensed through, if they're licensed, how long they've been operating. It'll give you contact information like email address, telephone numbers, and it'll also tell you what insurances they do accept, if they accept insurance at all. So Psychology Today is a really great way in whatever area you are in to find a psychiatrist or a counselor near you.
Outstanding. Well, guys, we are at the end of our hour, and as I mentioned, I will do a part 2 with Tracy. And so send in all your questions, so when she comes back, we could just bombard her with as many questions. Again, we will not be doing self-assessment, so we want to keep this in a general area where we discussed earlier if you're in the stuck mode. Hey, I'm Sandy White. I am your host of Simply Fit Radio. And remember, we are asking for you guys to make generous donations if you want to continue to see and hear simple tips and strategies from myself and the other broadcasters that are on WYTV7. And we thank WYTV7 for allowing Simply Fit Radio to be a part of the Christian Broadcasters Network. I come on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and I am in the Upper Marlboro, Maryland area. And hey, since we were talking about the general stuckness and mental health, I just wanted to let you all know that there is a supplement called Logic, L-O-G-I-Q, that Modere.com offers. That's MODERE.com, Modere. Use the referral code Fit 1650006 and check out that particular supplement. It's called Logic, and it helps you to think sharper, and it helps you with your mental clarity. And I'm just reading, so just give me a moment here. So it aids in your memory, your learning, and it boosts your attention, and it supports your mental health mood. So this is a really good product. You want to check it out. And we want to thank Tracy for being on, and we will get her on doing part 2. So get those questions in. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.